Nole Nation, welcome into another episode of the Renegade Rundown. I'm your host, Georgitis, as always, right here with you guys every Tuesday, Friday, and Sunday at 7 Eastern. We're hoping Jen can join us in a little bit. She is having a bit of an interior decorating disaster. Ordered a bed, and it was supposed to be there this morning, and it's like just now getting there. So I'm not sure if he's going to be able to make it in. But wanted to get in here and do a little episode with you guys, maybe do a little bit of ranting, talk about FSU football, the Seminoles 0-3 on the year with losses to Georgia Tech, Boston College, and the latest one against Memphis this past Saturday night. It's been a rough go of it so far, but Florida State finally gets their offensive coordinator, Alex Atkins, back. He is also the offensive line coach, which has been an extreme point of contention at Florida State for decades now. DJU has been a disaster so far. The defense was really bad in the first two games, but there was a lot of positive stuff there in the Memphis game. So pretty fired up about what the defense can do. The ACC realignment talk is back in the news. And I appreciate you guys. Bobby just let me know my audio is messing up. So bear in mind with me. I'll back out and get it back, but look forward to a good show, and I'll be right back with you guys. If you have any questions, make sure to throw them in the comments. As we try to get this thing going again. Appreciate everybody for joining us. We got Bobby in the house, No Fam 1893, Jason O, my guy Von Mayer Jr. just joined the chat. I'm right there with you guys. I know everybody wants to see Brock get some reps tomorrow. I might as well start here. I do think he gets reps. I think he gets reps at some point in time, unless this game comes down to like a last-second field goal or something of that nature. Look, me, you, the 90% of this fan base was done. They were done last week. That was their kind of, that was our cutoff point. It's like, what are we doing? We're 0-2. We're working on 0-3. Now we're 0-3. Like, what are you trying to say with DJU? What can you accomplish with him that it's not worth giving Brock a try? To me, I think Mike Norvell, this fourth game, that's what it is for him. I don't know why. I think it's maybe something you have to talk about, in the offseason leading into next season. It's a little different at Florida State. What we're building to is a team that can compete year in, year out. And you start 0-1, 0-2, the time to cut bait and make that youth movement or snatch a quarterback in favor of somebody else just seems to me that leash should be a little tighter. But we're going to see what happens. I hope that if it's the same crap that we've seen all year long in the first half, I'm hoping that they will send Brock out there and give him a shot. But I'm not convinced. I'm just giving you guys a heads up. I don't want you guys, because there's going to be a post-game show live like we do every week. I don't want you guys going into convulsions and having a heart attack and foaming at the mouth because we see a fourth game without Brock. If we go 0-4, yeah, at that point, you're looking at long-term damage to the Mike Norvell coaching tenure at Florida State. So if for whatever reason Florida State can't pull this game off against Cal, unless DJU looks like Superman, you're going to have pretty much all the players in Tallahassee descending down on Mike Norvell, starting to put some pressure on there. So we'll see what happens. And again, I'm pretty hopeful here. I'll say some stuff. We're going to do a prediction at the very end of the show. Peter Shields joins the chat. Angelo Smith, what's up, my guy? Scott Felty in the chat. Encyclopedia. FSU has 5 touchdowns in 3 games with ukulele. We need to get that bum off the field. Those are not my words. Those were Encyclopedia's words. Look, I don't think he's a bum. He's a great guy. I think there was a mistaken evaluation. We thought that DJU was going to come in here and look the best he's looked in his entire career. Hasn't been the case. It's been the worst. The confidence, the timing, everything. It was just a bad mix for him. It's you can't get off to any worse of a start. But at the same time, I can see Mike's thought process of looking around all the different things that don't go right. You're trying to break in a new quarterback. Okay, he finally gets in a rhythm, and then there's 7 drops in the second half of a game. Like, all those things come to the mind. So I understand where he's thinking on that side of things. But make no mistake, You see these young players coming to practice with a different fire. You're hearing guys like Hakeem Williams talk about new leaders on the team. It's really a beautiful thing to see. Edward Joseph needs to get a lot of playing time in this game. I think we found our linebackers, Blake Nicholson, Juice Cryer. You've got two stud linebackers there. I think KJ Sampson and Conrad Hussey, like, we'll see what happens with Shaheem. He's going to have to really battle for those snaps because our safeties look the best they've looked all year against Memphis. Ventrell Cypress, to me, has played pretty well. Azaria Thomas has been a pretty big disappointment. So much for, I guess, kind of the hopes and dreams and kind of the expectations people had of him being possibly the best player on the team and being a first round draft pick and things of that nature. But still, he's a plus corner in the ACC. He's a damn good corner. So we'll be good there. And then the defensive line, I don't expect anything to change. I think you see 11-7 bookending at the defensive ends with 5 and 6 in the middle. But I think a lot of Seminole Nation wants to see 95 possibly and 13 break into that lineup. To me, 11-7 are really a lot of the same character out there. And I know you guys have heard that from me quite a bit. But just to run down what I'm looking for, what I'm hoping to see out of Florida State in this Cal game, that's kind of it. You see guys go for those single-digit numbers. It kind of drives me nuts. It's something that we saw in the Taggart era. It wasn't earned. It's just like all of a sudden, whatever. You're just the oldest receiver, so you get that number, or somebody that left. Like, there really should be something to it. Now, don't get me wrong. Joshua Farmer, I would have been okay with the single digit for him because, like, he earned it. Like, up until this point before this year, we all thought he was going to take that next step. He looked like a legitimate NFL-type defensive tackle. It hasn't looked quite that thus far. Okay, but Daryl Jackson, bad situation, whatever the case may be. You've got a year or two of film, but I don't know. It's just crazy to me that you look and it's all these guys that were supposed to be your captains and your leaders, and they got single digit numbers and things of that nature. And these are the people that we're, worried about. These are the people whose effort has come into question. These are the people that, I feel like, and people will say, well, George, you hyped all these guys up. So why are you coming down on them? Why are you doing? You're the one that's put all these expectations on them. Hey, well, that's absolutely right. That is absolutely right. We were totally wrong. But if you don't think I'm getting hammered for my opinions, just go check out my Twitter feed and this YouTube channel, because we don't delete videos. We don't put them invisible unless it's something where, something like I had some stuff with Seymour that we don't agree anymore. So it just doesn't make sense to have on the channel. Besides that, it's all up there. So we were wrong. But at the end of the day, these kids are getting paid. I went on a rant on the Voice of College Football on Dion Sanders, because he did it was like a 3 or 4 minute clip in a press conference where he's talking about how people like me and people on their couches and things of this and that feel like they're entitled now to, talk crap about these players and all these things, and that it's not right. And it came off crazy to me for how, like, he trashes his own team, throws away his old defensive line and things of that nature. But I won't go too crazy into that. But look, it's what it is. It's not much. I pay the very minimum amount of Battle's End. I'm not very financially well off. I'm struggling. I'm trying to make a business out of this, but I still pay my little bit of money. I know a lot of people out there are paying thousands and thousands. You've got Platinum Chief boosters and things of that nature. So when you're invested literally in paying for these players to get here, who's got the top contracts and things of that nature. Like, yeah, there's a line to everything, but it's no different than talking about the NFL or the college, anything, CFL, MLB, NBA. You're quote unquote professionals now. That's what you wanted. You said basically that's been a deal for 2 decades now. They've been arguing about it. By next year, they're going to have $25 million per team that they're going to split up. They're going to have a legitimate salary cap. So it's open game. I get that if I was a player and I seen some kid sitting there talking shit about me that never played football in his life and all he's done is talk about it on a YouTube channel, I'd probably feel some type of way too. But that type of way that I would feel is that I got to go get better. I got to go, make him eat his words. So please, number 5, number 6, make me eat my words. Number 95, I see you, Daniel Lyons. KJ Sampson, I see you. I want to see you guys continue to get those opportunities. Siono Lolahea, he's got plenty of opportunities. I questioned if maybe that's NIL related, why an 11 and 7 are getting, those positions there. Like, I don't understand. Sione has set the edge better than anybody all year, but you never know. One issue with Mike Norvell is he does not report injuries unless it's season ending. You're not going to hear about it. So people want to make a big deal about the depth chart. We even talk about it from time to time, but biggest thing is you'll get an or removed. But when you look at those depth charts week in and week out, even though Jeremiah Byers has been hurt for the past 2 weeks, he's still starting at right tackle on the depth chart. Darius Washington is still starting at left tackle, even though they weren't available. So it's kind of one of those things. We're just going to have to wait till tomorrow to see. But again, if you're hoping to see Brock Glenn back there starting to open up the game against Cal, I'm sorry, it's not going to happen. Encyclopedia drops a $6 super chat. I think that's the first ever one I've gotten for $6. A random amount, but we sure appreciate you, bro. Bring back Greg Jones as an attitude coordinator. I'm all for it. These guys, they need some fire. I don't know what to liken it to. It's kind of inexplicable, but the Georgia Tech game, you really couldn't tell. You just looked out there and you saw a team. It appeared for everyone watching that Georgia Tech was just a far superior team. They're pushing Florida State back, both sides of the line of scrimmage, 3 yards at a time. DBs aren't making plays. They aren't on the same page. Linebackers can't. They were miserable. And then you look 2-3 games later at Memphis with all this youth on the field. And, whatever. It's a G5 team. It's a lesser opponent, whatever you want to say. But there's just a different fire. There's a different speed. And we talk all the time about the little bit of video that we're able to see that comes out of practice, these, where the guys are walking up, the drills and things they do. When players have to almost break their neck to get around a player who's walking 2 miles per hour with his head in the ground, just miserable, like they want to be anywhere else. And they're saying stuff like, if you don't want to be here, go home. Whatever. I heard some people said he was talking about the media when he said that, but I don't believe it. I think that was a message for players. I think the young guys, they want to compete at a high level. So hopefully you get your offensive coordinator back. Again, he's been at practice the whole time, but maybe he can get the pulse of that offense and get us some want to on offense. Because outside of that first drive at Georgia Tech, we just have not seen it there. Another thing I'm looking forward to see is how they use Toafili. I have still not had anybody tell me if he is hurt at all. We saw him make a quote-unquote drop early in the year on a play, but it was still a pretty tough ball from DJU. It was a bit of a wobbler, super hard. His body language hasn't been great. People have said he doesn't quite look like himself. I don't even really, really caught my eye in the Memphis game. That 24-yard run, I've heard different opinions on it. Some people say he's loafing. I think he was injured, but it just doesn't look right. And he only had, I think, 3 or 4 snaps in that entire game. How you come out and run for 24 yards and then run for 16 yards and that's it? I don't know. We've got an offensive line that has struggled mightily all year. Go back and watch tape of that Louisville game because Jordan Travis wasn't in it. There weren't a bunch of big plays to NFL wide receivers, and it wasn't a show of Trey Benson running it downhill. It was the Lawrence Toafili show. And the Wildcat moving the ball at will. So to me, Mike Norvell, if you're worried, you don't want to hurt DJ's feelings, you don't want to, cut the axe, whatever the case may be, why can't we run the Wildcat with Lawrence Toafili or any of the other backs for that matter? So yeah, really looking forward to how they use Toafili. I don't know if you guys remember going into the season, I made a graphic. And in my first graphic, I had Lawrence Toafili starting at running back with Roydell behind him and Jalen Lucas and Ja'Kai Douglas, I believe, at the slot. Or maybe I'm forgetting somebody at the running back there. Not the slot, the tailback position. Now, everybody told me I was crazy, and rightly so. Mike Norvell was planning to keep him at that tailback 1 position, and they give Roydell the running back 1 position. My argument was, I thought they would make Lawrence Toafili the number 1 running back because he's the best running back in the room. He's got the most experience. He's the best runner. And the running back is the premier position. We've seen it since Mike Norvell's been here. Yeah, Toafili gets the ball. The tailback gets the ball. They catch passes and things of that nature. But it's never been to the level of the running back. It was all the way back to Trayshawn Ward was the running back, and he got the bulk of the carries. And then it was Trey Benson. He got the bulk of the carries. I thought this year was for Lawrence Toafili to get his bulk of the carries, and that's why I put him in running back one. And again, everybody told me I was crazy for the logic, yada, yada. Look at the depth chart. Look at what Mike Norvell's saying. So I said, you guys are right. And you were. So I switched it, and I put it how it ended up being with Roy Dell at running back one. But 3 weeks into the season, who here wishes Lawrence Toafili was running back one? And Roydell Williams was the quote-unquote tailback or third down running back. How different would it look? When I've seen Toafili on the field, I've seen him read the holes and make plus runs damn near every time. So you guys pull up the tape, tell me if I'm crazy. It's just like seems like one thing nobody is talking about out there. Ed Limix joins the chat, says Wildcat with Jackson. He is like Jordan. Look, I don't know how far along Trevor Jackson is. I imagine he's not ready to start or anything like that. Same as Luke. But yeah, man, how can you not, like, you should be able to hammer down 3 or 4 plays, be it Wildcat or just to send him out there as a quarterback, to run zone read or whatever the case may be. With his athleticism, obviously you're not going to be able to install the whole offense. And after you run those 3 plays, you're back to the drawing board. But with an entire camp and everything that happened in the first week and a bye week and everything of that nature, yeah, we'll see. I would love to see Trevor Jackson get out there and move around and make some plays with his legs. Because a lot of times, especially early in Jordan Travis's career, like, you don't have to be the best thrower in the world. I mean, just look at Tim Tebow and what he did at Florida. Not to belittle the quarterback he was, but have you ever seen him throw the football? But he was not great at it. But he could buy himself time and was such a threat with his legs that he threw for 30 touchdowns. So, yeah, that was never, ever, ever going to be DJU. But for DJU to be successful, when you look at the 4 years, you've got to be able to run the ball. And he has to be able to connect on play action and things of that nature. And that is just not how this offense works. In theory, it could. If the offensive line could get better, if they could run, the ball better, they could. We just haven't seen it. This entire time that Norvell's been here, and even looking at Memphis when they came down to town, this offense kind of throws to set up the run is how I look at it. They've got to make you pay, because if you can't back the safeties off, the run game is not going to be successful. And with DJU, like, he can't make them pay for these crazy blitzes they're throwing. Because when they blitz, they either stop the run, he checks right into it, or he checks into a pass and gets sacked. It's just a really tough situation. Again, Mike Norvell calls the play, so everybody in the country has really, really, really kind of minimized the issue of Alex Atkins not being here. Yeah, it's a pretty big problem. And yeah, you can throw on Alex Atkins the issue of not recruiting enough tackles, having guards having to play at tackle and things of that nature. But we're out your top, your starting tackles in Darius Washington and Jeremiah Byers last week. We're going to find out this week how much it matters. Personally, I don't think it's like, obviously, we're not going to become a playoff team overnight. But I truly believe if Alex Atkins had been there, Florida State at least wins 1 or 2 of these ball games. I think there's a reason he's so valuable, and we're going to find out. Maybe I'm totally wrong, but we shall see as I try to read through the chat here. Yeah. A lot of stuff disagreeing with me, guys. Not disagreeing, agreeing with me. I'm right there with everybody, but yeah, it's just a tough time. And then I guess that's a good warm up there to talk about the team and how I feel. But yeah, ACC back in the news. Apparently, I'm not sure if we talked about it Tuesday or not. There's conflicting reports out there. According to the Yahoo report, Florida State and Clemson brought an offer to the ACC conference. An offer that included an unequal revenue distribution. Not so much tied to just performance and things of that nature, which is extremely cyclical, but what brings in the money? The real moneymaker, TV views. We've talked about it ad nauseum. Florida State and Clemson in any given year bring in 30 to 40 of the TV ratings, 30 to 40%. And that's even, in my opinion, a flawed estimate when you look at the rest of the teams and things of that nature. When Florida State plays Syracuse in primetime, that single game is 50% of their views for the entire year. So it's a slippery slope there. But the idea being that the ACC would concede to this. The rest of the teams in the league would have to concede to it. Wake Forest, Syracuse, all these teams, to Florida State getting more. I'm not sure if it would be just Florida State and Clemson that got their percentage, whatever it is, 13, 15%, paid for their TV ratings. I'm not sure if it would go in order. Like Miami would get a little bit more. Louisville would get a little bit more as the third and fourth place teams. I'm not sure exactly like that, but I'm almost positive that's how it would be. Now, here's the argument out there. The argument out there is that, well, Florida State and Clemson, they're stuck. They know that, they're going to have to pay $500 million and all these things of this nature, yada, yada. Why would the ACC do this? This was FSU and Clemson's idea. They're just hoping this is never going to happen. Another part of this, not just the money, but it would knock the timetable down from 2036 to 2030 if the ACC were to accept it. So what you would get is a bit of a bump, a generous bump in your revenue to get you closer to the Big Ten and the SEC to compete with them. But the big thing here for FSU would be, okay, 2030. So that puts us 4 or 5 years out. Now, it was originally going to be 26. So you're only 2 or 3 more years than what you were initially looking at to get out of the conference as a quote unquote free agent. If the ACC accepts this and lowers it down to 2030, then bam, there you go, 5, 6 years, and you can be a true free agent as a Florida State Seminole football team and go out there, put yourself on the market, try to get in the Big Ten, whatever the case may be, whatever you decide, be independent. It's up to you. We all think Big Ten here. Some people seem to think the ACC is where it'll end up. It's a win-win for everybody. I don't see why you wouldn't do it. I think this is the way to go. We said all along this is kind of the only answer for the ACC to pay up. Again, conflicting reports. I think it was Bud Elliott that quote tweeted and said that he disputes the reporting that it was FSU and Clemson that brought it up. Because this isn't a brand new idea. This is actually an idea that Florida State and Clemson floated way back in, I believe, 2022. It was kind of the first move to try to figure something out where this conference could actually stay together. And it was denied. It was denied vehemently. Like, get the hell out of here. There's no way in hell. Nonstarter, I believe, is what the president or the whatever, the ACC conference, that's what they called it, a non-starter. Now, 2023, after they were just completely blown off, that's when Mike Alford came out publicly and he said, like, look, there's no future for Florida State in the ACC under this current grant of rights. Like, we can't compete. It's going to get worse and worse and worse. And then, of course, Florida State sues the ACC. Then Clemson sues the ACC. We've got all these appeals, whatever it is, 6, 7 court cases going on. Guys, another thing we told you, no chance in hell these things get settled by February 1st, 2025. February 1st, 2025, that's when ESPN has to decide whether they're going to extend the ACC or not. I'm not going to talk about this all night long, but I do want to point out, like, kind of the sticking factors that you'll see all over the place. Oh, they've got nowhere else to go. Why would the teams in the bottom ever accept this? They're just going to lose a ton of money and they have no home. Why would Wake Forest accept this? Why would this? Well, that's exactly why. If you're Wake Forest, if you're one of the bottom half of the ACC, this is it. This is your last chance. This is your last chance to vote yes. Okay, we're going to work with Clemson and Florida State and keep them in the conference. There's an idea out there that if FSU and Clemson leaves, that's it. The ACC is going to be worth 60% of what it was with them in it because they account for 40% of the revenue, TV ratings, et cetera, et cetera. But that simply is not, it's just not how it works. Just not how it works. Because, yeah, Florida State and Clemson's games get half the ratings and all that. But when you take them off the schedule of all those other teams, I mean, it's a precipitous drop. So in ESPN's position, what they're looking at this is, okay, if Florida State leaves, are we going to sign this thing for another 9 years? Are we going to sign it for another 9 years knowing Florida State could leave next year and us be on the hook for 8 years? I think people think when they think about these deals, they think about the economy, inflation. things of that nature. Okay, well, I mean, whatever. Why wouldn't ESPN pay the $45 million all the way through 2036? In 2036, that'll be nothing. The SEC and the Big Ten will be making 100-something million. Well, that's true, but that's not how this grant of rights works. It was set up initially to be inflation proof. It was supposed to predict the markets. They were supposed to come out and compete with the SEC and the Big Ten. That's in the contract. They're supposed to compete at the highest level, do everything possible, yada, yada. But that can't happen when you negotiate once every 20 years and then set up an extension for another 10 years on the back end of it. It doesn't make it. So whatever, in 2036, if it's 60 million, that's going to be way, way too much for anybody in a conference minus Florida State and Clemson. There's no way in hell ESPN would do it. They would lose their ass. And another big a big thing that people try to say is, oh, well, FSU and Clemson, they just get the prime time slots on ABC. So no wonder they get more views, yada, yada. Guys, that's their prime time slot. Do you know anything about TV? If you don't do numbers in the prime time slot, your ass is out of there. And you'll probably never get in again. It's huge. Like, they're not just throwing Florida State. Like, let's just build. We love Florida State. Let's just throw them in a prime time slot when they're 0-3. No, Florida State's 0-2, lost a game against Memphis, and was the only ACC team in the top 10 of TV viewership. Cam Ward, Miami, everything they're doing, they were also playing a lesser than team. Plenty of ACC teams playing each other last week. We played at noon. It is what it is. I get people don't want to hear the settlement talk nonstop and everything like that, but it's just out there, and I have to see it all day long. It's like all these people. It's the same people. They just want to take on a negative. Whatever, it rubs them wrong that Florida State wants to get out. I get their fair worth. Florida State, Clemson, they've been the most loyal of all the quote unquote blue bloods or new bloods or whatever you want to talk about. Oklahoma and Texas, they already left. UCLA, USC, they already left. Literally, the only two, like I say, quote unquote, blue blood, new blood, whatever you want to call us, we're the only two left. And now we're the big evil enemy for leaving. And we have no leverage, nowhere to go. The grant of rights, ironclad, but somehow it keeps moving. The line keeps moving. Now they're considering, they spent 8 hours talking about dropping 6 years off the contract, giving Florida State money. Well, that was just a non-starter. So what is it? What is it? Why is the ACC doing this? Why don't they just say, screw you? But again, if you guys have any questions, throw it up here and I'll get it answered. I'm not sure how much longer we will go tonight. Just kind of a shorter episode here as we get ready for Memphis, get ready for tomorrow. But yeah, man. Again, guys, I don't have the phone. We can't do call-ins, but I will answer any questions that anybody has about the team, about the game against Memphis. I don't know a ton about Memphis. I know they beat Auburn in a couple directional schools. I think San Diego State, somebody else. Nothing too spectacular. They beat Auburn 21-14, but they do have a pretty decent quarterback. He's 6'5", kind of prototypical guy. I believe his name is Mendoza, something like that. Guys, we should win this game. We should win it. We should dominate it. But we've got to go out there and play with effort. We got to go out there and, play a better game than we've played all year. I truly believe that it happens. This will be the fourth game I predict the win in. 0-3 so far, but really, really hope we can get it. They play Miami the very next week, so who knows? Maybe they underestimate us, but we'll see. People asking about the depth chart tomorrow. To be honest, I don't even look for it anymore. Don't expect anything to change on it. I think they put one out at the beginning of the week, but that depth chart doesn't mean jack. It really doesn't. Outside of a guy being, like I said, if they're going to put a guy out, bench a guy for the year, then yeah, look at the depth chart. It'll matter. But outside of that, very little changes here. Very little changes. Everybody's I was wondering why it says Cal. Everybody, I guess, is picking Cal. Oh, man. Oh, the Cal depth chart. Again, I'm not sure about the Cal depth chart. I looked at it for a little bit. They're very similar to Memphis in that, and us that they're like 50-50 transfers. They're, I don't know, maybe call it being lazy or aggravated or whatever, but I didn't look at Cal at all, guys. There's nothing. We can sit here and break down X's and O's, this and that. Yeah, I don't think I don't think it really matters. If Florida State plays, they're going to win. Apparently, I was calling Cal Memphis. My apologies. It's one of those things. Mike told us earlier in the week, DJ gave us the best shot. That's bad. Yeah, I don't know about that. I do. He said he made a comment that he has given us every opportunity to win. He's given us chances. We actually use that as a quote to open up the roast. Yeah, he's given us a chance, but a very teeny tiny itsy bitsy chance. Yeah, Chris. Like I told everybody earlier, Jen had a bit of a emergency with some things she was getting delivered to the house. It showed up right as we was about to start the show. So yeah, but as always, you're welcome to join in if you want, buddy. I'd have to hop off to send you a link, or maybe you could get her to send you one. But no, just me. And again, guys, if you have any questions, make sure to put them in the chat as Florida State gets ready to play Cal tomorrow at Doak Campbell Stadium. Again, we'll be here live with the post game show. As always, it's been 3 losing games. I want to win so bad. I want to talk good things. I want to talk about the future of Florida State. I want to talk about what's next. But it is what it is. Spear Addicts, if you guys didn't know, he switched to Tuesdays and Fridays, so the same as us, except for they don't do a Sunday show. So it'll be kind of back to back. Hopefully, me and Chris can have fun with this. He can do our show, and we'll jump over there with him. But 8:30 Eastern will be the new Spear Addicts live, and they're also going to be streaming to a new platform. So go check that out as well after we get done here. But yeah, guys, I'm tired of raging. I'm tired of going on tangents about this and about that. I think we just kind of we know what's going on with this roster. We know what we've got. We know what we thought we had. It's up to these players at this point in time, and it's up to the coaching staff. If we lose this game, I want to see changes. I want to see real changes. I want to see somebody fired. I want to see somebody benched, and not put as injured out for the week to give him a suspension, or not, this or that. Like, you've got to start making some changes. You can't lose to Cal at home. You can't start the year off 0-4. You got your offensive coordinator back, so that's it. It's time. I live in Tallahassee, not bad, but I talked a bunch of crap online this offseason. The first time I was sure we were going to be good, and then 0-3 happens. Yeah, you and me both, buddy. I talked a whole lot of crap. Whole lot of crap, but it is what it is. We're here every week. It is what it is. Fire Shannon, then whatever coaches at Spear Addicts alluded to. Yeah, it's time. The Mike Norvell hot seat people, like, it's way, way, way premature. Coaches get an opportunity to fail and replace coordinators. So he's going to get that opportunity at the very least. The question is, like, we know, as whoever that comment I just read, Shannon's on the top of the list. There's another 3 or 4 people who are probably going to be out the door that I would predict to be out the door. But do you wait to the end of the season, or do you make that? Do you make that pool now? Do you decide to upgrade Ernie Sims? What do you do? So yeah, I think if you lose this game, if you lose the 4th game in a row, then we've got a nasty stretch of football coming up at the end of the year. The schedule is actually pretty tough. So you've got to do something at that point. Whether you keep the staff and you bench, you start Brock. I don't know what the answer is, but it's time for changes. It's not what's going on in Tallahassee right now is just purely unacceptable. It's unacceptable. Man, I harassed the Rec Talk podcast so much he had my name plastered on the screen all night after the Tech game. Oh man, that Rec Talk guy, man, hats off to him. That Joker has some energy. And yeah, I thought he was crazy as hell and talking reckless as hell before the season, but hey, we lost. We lost by 3 points to Georgia Tech, and it is what it is. The crow, eating crow, whatever, but I don't delete tweets. I don't delete episodes. So whatever, it's all out there. I think it's real funny. The thing that people really hammer me for is the talent acquisition. And I get it. They missed on a bunch of guys this year, but at the end of the day, when 247 came out with their composite, that's supposedly everybody said I was crazy for disregarding when it came to what a football team does. When you look at that composite, it's in reverse order of the football teams in Florida. I mean, Florida's top. They're the highest at like 11. Florida State's 12 and Miami is 13. They literally flipped the script. Like they dropped. We rose in the high school rankings. And now Florida State sucks and Miami's on the up and up. So, it is what it is. Yeah. Bobby says that's why I asked if the roster the last year covered up some coaching deficiencies. Yeah, there's no doubt in hell that it did. That's a normal thing in college football. The players make you. There's a reason why recruiting is so important. But yeah, certainly Jordan Travis, certainly some guys on the defense, from Jermaine Johnson to Jared Verse to Braden Fisk, they covered up some deficiencies, but that's just a normal thing that happens every year in college football. Like it's almost just, it's something you can't use an excuse. Like we knew that. The coaching staff knew that. They knew all those guys were leaving. They saw how highly drafted they were. So it's like it was incumbent upon them to bring in the talent to replace them. And they thought they did it. And somebody said it, yeah. All the coaches and the TV people and yada yada, they think that as well. George, do you think Mike is the coach for the long term? Do you think he can be elite? Yes, I did. I truly did. You have to wonder at this point in time elite that's tough. Elite is, you have to tell me what you think elite is. Because we were a cunt hair away from playing for a national championship last year. And it's not like we had, as great as Jordan Travis was, he's not the greatest quarterback in FSU history. So if you're going to say that, did the 2013 cover up some coaching deficiencies for Jimbo Fisher? You damn right. Did the 1999 FSU team cover up some deficiencies with those offensive staff and things of that nature? You damn right. Now Mark Richt left and you really saw it. But yeah, I think that's just kind of part of coaching. And if you ask any of the best coaches, like what made them great or yada yada, Belichick will tell you it's drafting Brady. Urban Meyer will tell you it's recruiting Tim Tebow. So that's what it all goes back to. Where I was so high on Mike Norvell and thought that he was so elite was in that the way that what Derek Ray had done the previous year and what they had done the previous 2 years to be able to send talent out the back door that was lesser and bring in better talent year over year. And that's how we got so good. But they just kind of missed on those guys. And it's not like they weren't after them or they didn't identify them. Very early in the process, there was 2 guys, Kyle Kennard, Nick Scorton, that in past years, in the previous 2 years, we would have gotten those guys. But we didn't get them. And it went down the list to guys who, like Siona Lolohea, who, crazily enough, has been the best. Guys that you've seen play on this level, and it's not the same thing as a guy coming from Georgia and Jermaine Johnson, where you saw that he's just in the wrong position. Put him on the line and pass, rush the passer. We brought in a bunch of guys who you kind of knew what the ceiling was, like Braden Fisk, Jared Verse, even Tatum Bethune. Like those guys all played out of their minds. Trey Benson, when he came in, people were not thinking his ceiling is what it turned out to be. So we talked about it. It was an insane hit rate. And You can argue whether it's the recruiting part of it or the evaluations, et cetera, et cetera. I don't think it's the evaluations because they still evaluated the top guys. They just missed this year. It's a combination of other teams around the country seeing what Florida State did, Ole Miss, all these different teams attacking harder, seeing what you could do. Florida State had 2 guys drafted in the top 100 that came from lesser ball, came straight from D2. Like, that's unheard of. That isn't something that you were able to do. And you've heard talking heads say it for years and years. They said you can't get DNs out of the portal. You can't get these defensive tackles out of the portal. Well, now they don't say it quite so much. Now it's you can't get offensive tackles out of the portal. You can get D linemen out of the portal, but you also have to recruit out of the high school level. I think, that's the biggest issue has been the high school recruiting. Because look, if you have the high school recruiting to a certain level, if you miss on all these portal guys, then you would have the young guys to fall back on. And we do to a certain extent, especially on defense, not so much on the offensive line and some different places. Quarterback, you have them, but they're freshmen. So it's one of those things. I see it all getting better. I don't see next year starting 0-3. I see this team getting better and better. We literally just had far and away our best recruiting year. It's just a lot caught up to us. I don't think people understand how losing 13 players to the NFL, 10 in the draft, 6 in the top 100, like how giant of a loss that is. I mean, you're talking about half of your squad was like NFL guys, literal guys who can go out there and play in the NFL, and they're gone. Very, very, very few teams in the country can do that. Now, Michigan lost their head coach, so it's a little bit different thing up there, but they're not 0-3 or whatever, but they're a shell of who they were. There's a lot of teams out there this year that don't. People are kind of shocked by what they look like. And say what you want to about Georgia Tech and Boston College. We'll see if they're complete embarrassments as the year goes on. But with these new rules, shortened games, the headsets, being able to coach like that, it's just a different game, and it's just a disappointment. We were wrong. What can you say, man? You've got to get the talent in there. There's 3 positions that I already mentioned, DN, D tackle, and offensive tackle, that they just have got to be able to recruit better at a high school level. They just have to be able to do better. When you look at offensive tackles every year, and I talked about it a lot this year, the guys we're looking at, there's like 30 or 40 of them. That's it, of these guys that are, 4 and 5-star guys that you can bring in to build your room around. And it's of those 30 or 40, only like 10 that are legit, like come in, make a difference as a freshman. And maybe only 1 or 2 that can go out there and start and be difference makers. We just have not gotten our guys. We haven't got those top 15, top 20 tackles. We got Lucas Simmons. We got Julian Armella a couple years ago. Been a big disappointment, and he's like not a giant disappointment. I'm not trying to hammer on the kid, but as a tackle, yeah, we're hoping to see him get in there. But he's another guard. I don't believe that Atkins makes no difference. I don't believe all of the slander, but he certainly does need to recruit better out of high school. The way this thing started with COVID and then 2021 and then hammering on the portal as much as they did, they're reaping what they sow right now. And one thing that I talked about at the beginning of the year that was absolutely correct, that just was to another degree, like hundreds of miles worse than I ever could have thought it was. We talked about last year and the year before, the opening to that LSU game. You had all summer. You had, really a lot of upperclassmen. Florida State came out the gate last year looking the best they would all year. They were 100% healthy. Everybody was extremely locked in. NFL guys, again, 13 NFL guys out there. And then you got worse as the year went on just due to injuries. Eventually, Jordan Travis going out. You get a bit of a bye week. Everybody's fired up. Playoff time. And you see that fire again. You see a similar defense and offense that you saw in LSU week 1. You see them ratchet it up. We all knew that's what we weren't getting this year. This year, we were getting a young team, new quarterback, all those things. It was going to take some time to build. And this team should be, again, similar to 2021, its very best at the very end of the year. Well, we were right about that, but it was just way, 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 way worse than we could ever imagine. And again, I think this will be a completely different ball club by the end of the year. But will it be too late? Like it's already too late, obviously. But tough times. We got to get a win. Florida State has never needed a win more than it needs it tomorrow. We have got to get this win. I think if they get the win, we could very possibly see something like 2021, where you start off 0-4 and then end 5-3. We could definitely see that. We get in this year 6-3, something like that. But if you lose this game, it's going to be really tough, because no matter how much I hear and I tell you people that Mike Norvell isn't on the hot seat and things of that nature, there's just only so much losing that you can take in Tallahassee, and the media is nasty. The whole entire country is going to jump on. This isn't like 2021, where we're getting that fired up Mike Norvell. I can't control that. All I can control is this. Like, a different situation. You only tell that speech once. And you kind of see that. You see a defeatedness in Mike Norvell out there that we've never seen before. I talked about, I'm not sure if it was on the show, a lot of people are asking, well, where's Mike Norvell that's fired up? That Deuce Spann makes a personal penalty, and you snatch him by the fake face mask and holler at him and tell him, yada, 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 yada. Well, I don't think this team mentally can handle it. I think he thinks if he does that to DJU or Kyle Morlock, whoever the case may be, that they may just fall apart. And, they've got to build up something. They've got to build up. The kids have to figure it out, and the grown-ups have to do their part too. I'm at a loss for words on this, guys. I don't want to keep hammering on this stuff, but I am really excited for tomorrow. Let's make a prediction. I think we win, but again, similar to the past weeks, give me Florida State 28, Cal 27. So, boom, there you go. 56 total points. It could happen. I'm not going to bet on it. If they go 0-4 this week, they lose this game to Cal, I probably won't pick us again the rest of the year, except for Charleston Southern. Kev says 28 points. Nope. Man, I guess we will see. Again, I don't want to make too much of it, but I got to think that having your offensive coordinator and your offensive line coach has got to help. If anything, help Mike Norvell make a call to get the guy out of there, or see something he's not seeing. So something isn't equating. I don't know if they took somebody out of the top box that used to be down there and now they're on the field, and maybe that's Gabe Fertitta. Maybe he's on the field because Alex Atkins isn't here, but there is something wrong with that offense. There is something dead in it. And again, we can talk all day about the offensive line and the wide receivers making drops and the tight ends and DJU. But at the end of the day, we've seen every single player on that field play better, outside of the true freshmen who haven't played in college football at all. So yeah, I guess that's what it's all about. We got to get out there and see some effort. Want to see some young guys. I guarantee you Brock's not going to start, but I do want to see Brock out there. Unless DJU puts up 60 points, I'd be all for that. Let him just go crazy. But yeah, unfortunately, I don't see, like Kev says, Mike making any changes this week. I do think the defense, if there's one thing that I'm happy about and hyped about, I think they got the defense figured out. I really do. I really think they figured out who they've got on defense. I still don't like the kind of rotation on defensive line, but at the end of the day, 7, 11, 5, 6, 95, and I can't think of KJ Sampson's right number right now. Byron Turner, those 6, 7 guys, they're going to get the snaps. It's just going to be on what order. And it just seems like to me, you kind of send a message to Daryl Jackson and give 95 the start. But we shall see how that plays out. Hopefully 13's good and can play as many snaps as he possibly can. Edwin Joseph, as I mentioned earlier. The linebackers, Juice and Blake, we got to really hope those guys don't hurt. That's another problem. If Juice, that last game, I think every linebacker went down with a cramp or something. But yeah, we need Juice and Blake to stay healthy, because they're kind of, the motor that makes that defense stay together right now. Especially Juice. I just love to see the fire he's out there playing with. It's rubbed off on guys like Edwin Joseph again that I keep mentioning. Have I said Edwin Joseph's name enough? Really want to see him on the field. But yeah, I think I've talked about it enough. We're about 10 minutes from an hour. If you have any more questions, now is the time to get that done. I'll scroll through the chat here a little bit. Seems like we've got a team full of AJ Duffys. Starters do not care. There is zero development. Is zero development. I would say at certain areas there is, but other areas I would say no. I don't. Again, the problem on this team is that they missed on the 17 guys they brought in. The guys they developed are in the NFL. Like there's all this, oh, they're just transfers into, like that really gets blown up. It was just Braden Fisk and Keon were the two real, mercenaries. Jerry and Jones developed at Florida State. Now, I'm talking overall here. When you're talking about Randy Shannon and what he's done with these linebackers, yes, they have not developed. The offensive line, I think, has been great. I think they have developed quite a bit. I think people just forget what it was like from 2015 until 2021. I think it's looked terrible this year on account of obviously losing your two tackles and the quarterback and everything else and not having your offensive line guy there. But I've certainly seen guys on this team, on this offensive line develop. DJU, like he's a 1-year guy. He's only been here a couple months. It hasn't worked out, but I wouldn't put that so much on development. Again, as evaluation. Let's think. What other wide receiver? Yeah, it's tough. Ron Dugans is one of those guys. His one thing, like when he came to Florida State, the moniker around him was like, he hasn't had the very best wide receivers, but the wide receivers that he get are coached up well, amazing blockers. Just get him, if we can get him the recruits, we're going to be good. He knows what Florida State's all about. I mean, Johnny Wilson, how much development went on there more than him just being able to play? Like he didn't look terribly different by the time he left. Who has Ron Dugans developed in his time in Tallahassee? You've got Kentron Portier. You've got Darion Williamson. Fair point, man. There's something to desire. There's some talk there, about Dugans and his stuff. I think we're all in on the Pat Surtain train. That said, I don't know what the hell is with the miscommunications with the DBs. I have to think it's a lot more to do with the linebackers making the wrong calls or what's coming in on the dot, but I'm not 100% sure. Again, I'm not privy to these defensive and offensive play calling meetings and things of that nature, how they're signaling in. But it's just unreal. Almost like maybe it's a thing that they have to do. Like it doesn't even get signaled in. You just see a guy lined up there and you're supposed to communicate with the safety or the slot cornerback or whoever's next to you. But it's not getting done. We're not seeing guys get smoked. We aren't seeing our DBs just getting smoked in one-on-one coverage or anything like that. The majority of it's just complete and total miscommunications. But again, Pat's pretty new. He's got some amazing talent coming in, so I'm fine with him. And then you get to the interior D line. What we've seen Pat do, I've been pretty damn impressed, John Puchis, with his development. Odell, he's been here for 40 years. Like, it's just one of those things where father time catches up with you eventually. Whether it's, like, I don't think he forgot to coach. I think the kids are just getting younger. You've got all these new challenges with NIL and things of that nature, and it is what it is. I'm just kind of rambling at this point. But yeah, I've got it 28-27 Florida State tomorrow. They get back in the win column. And yeah, Kev says, I really think that top 10 preseason rank hurt. Yeah. When you've got a team like we had last year, all those senior leaders and things of that nature, they can blow off all the hype train, the media stuff, all that. I absolutely think that's one of the biggest problems. This team read the press clippings. And it's like, it came from the interior. It came from Mike Norvell saying that, from the beginning, fastest, strongest team we've ever had. mentality. I couldn't even imagine being 19, 20 and getting whatever, $500,000, even 20,000, 50,000, what somebody would count as a peanuts NIL deal. I saw Shedeur Sanders talking about this. And again, as much as I talk about the Sanders family, I like give them props when they're right. And I thought this was extremely intelligent. Shedeur Sanders was explaining, somebody asked him, what does he think about NIL? Does he like it? Does he think it's right? Is it good for football? Is it better or worse? And he said, yeah, I love it. Obviously I'm able to get all these things, support my family. You're able to, whatever. But at the same time, and this is really smart coming from him, when you're wealthy, when you're able to come into money like that, all of a sudden, whether you hit the lottery or you get picked in the NFL or you get an NIL deal, all of a sudden you've got the best mattress, you've got the best car, you can eat the best food any day of the week, you can do this, you can do that, you can afford alcohol, you can go to these parties, you can do this, you can do that. All of a sudden, things that used to be extremely important in your life, things that you had to do in order to get a meal, to get a ride, to save up for that car, or possibly, get to the NFL, to put your mom in a new house, or whatever the things that used to motivate these guys. Well, Daryl Jackson, we like to make Joel. They got a Lambo truck. That stuff matters. We don't know how much these people are able to help their families, but like that is something that you would never want to go away. I'm not no means saying it's not good. It's amazing. If I could have went to play college football at FSU and got $1 million to buy my mom her dream cabin, off in a pasture somewhere in the middle of 100 horses, I would do that. That would be amazing. But where would that leave my motivation for getting ready for the next year? How much am I going to really willing to sacrifice as a redshirt senior who already has a 3rd round draft grade or a 1st round draft grade, who just went 13-0, went through the most hell of my life for 3 years through the climb and fighting and crawling, and you get all the way to this goal and they say, nope, you can't have it. There's so many things that go into this. There's so many issues. It was a ticking time bomb, and we're all guilty of ignoring everything. Looking back on it now, like I'll put it on myself. I should have been more around 8-9 wins and hoping for optimism of more. It was hubris. It was just one of those things. You think it's FSU, you've got it ramped up, 10 wins, 13. It's to the moon from here. But it's extremely, 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 extremely hard. It's tough. Kev says, no one who wins the lottery keeps working. And look, this isn't the lottery. Like, these guys worked to get to this point. But there's just a different work when all you've got is a thing of ramen noodles and like you're just ready for practice to start so you can go to the meal, get your meal, because the coach is like, I could imagine that's what it used to be like in the day. You remember the Hungry Huskies? What really set this NIL stuff off was the Yukon Huskies teams win a national championship and they can't afford Taco Bell. It's out of football season or whatever, so they're starving. So again, it's a great thing, but it's a new time. How many teams have we seen in the NFL that they try to put together through free agency with Hall of Famers, Pro Bowlers, All Pro? On paper, it's going to be the greatest team ever, and then the season comes and they suck. We wanted free agency in college football. Here's what we got. But here's the positive lining. Here's the silver lining of the cloud, guys. We got shitty in 1 year. We can get good in 1 year. So that's what it's all about. Kev says, see you tomorrow. Got to go. I think this is a good time for me to get out of here. We're at 58 minutes and 59 seconds. Not looking like Jen's going to be able to make it, but she'll be with us here soon. Again, nothing wrong with her. She's doing amazing. She just had ordered a bed like last week. I believe it goes up on the 2nd floor. So it's this whole thing. And they were super, super late, and they just got there as soon as we started the show. So everybody cross your fingers. Hopefully that's getting taken care of. Deshaun is out at the ballpark with his baby boy, I believe, as he has to do every other, I believe it lines up every other couple of weeks where that works out. So hopefully they get the win out there on the football field. Hopefully Florida State can get a win tomorrow. And that's about it. I don't see any more questions here. I'll leave you guys with a little bit of a highlight from last year so you can remember what it was like to have fun and watch FSU football. But again, we'll be right here for the instant reaction tomorrow night, and then Sunday live at 7 Eastern. Go Noles.